Married people have rates of violent victimization a third the rate of people who are single. And that's less than people who are separated or divorced. Whoa. Can you think about why, though? There's an underlying factor here that I think a lot of people don't pay attention to. Remember, what did we say was the number one correlation in violent victimizations? Income. Okay. Who has highest income of those groups? Married people. They got two people, right? And you're pooling resources. And so you've got, generally speaking, the married people have a much higher household income than unmarried people. When, as a woman especially, when is your income at biggest risk and where does it go down the most? Even before you get divorced, because usually by the time you get divorced, you've kind of gotten back on your feet a little bit, but a lot of women, they get right into poverty the second they separate from their husband. So what does that puts you right into that poverty, under the poverty line, which makes your violent victimization risk go up significantly. So recognize that, and I'm not making social commentary. These are statistics, right? So there is a part of that. So let's kind of think, what does it mean, and then we'll take a break. Okay? What does it mean? Your single most likely vector of violence in your world is a man who is a domestic partner or intimate partner. That is the single most likely. Now, I'm going to say that to you, and you go, why would you say that? So some of these statistics here, when we looked at domestic partner violence and those things, that's only reported domestic violence. That's domestic violence serious enough for the cops to get called, an arrest to get made, charges to get filed, and a conviction to happen. That's pretty rare. I have friends who are marriage therapists, and they will tell you that in the marriages that they see, clue, are in therapy, about 60% of those marriages have some form of domestic violence in them. Now, do they see all marriages? They don't, right? They see the marriages that are significant problems, but there's some statistics in there that maybe some good resources, maybe half of marriages in America or even more experience domestic violence in them, but not raising to the level of the police getting involved. Now, of course, I'm going to tell you, now we're going to talk about solutions to that, but that's the number one vector of violence. For you as a woman in America, the number one vector of violence, the most likely vector of violence in your life is your intimate partner. Or, if you don't have an intimate partner, the male head of your household. Now you go, I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need me no man. I live on my own. Okay, then you don't have one of those, and it's not a vector of violence in your life. But for most, that is the number one vector of violence. That just floors me, and it makes me so mad. But it's true. So we're going to talk about what that means in a little bit. Nevertheless, we got some ideas here that is stranger violence still a challenge? It is a significant challenge, okay? You're way more likely to be attacked by a person of your own ethnicity. It's just reality things. I think that's because Americans tend to clump into groups of people that look like them. And I know we go, well, wait a minute, I have a friend of a different race than I do. That's true. But straight up, go to church. When you go to church, you probably go to a church of a bunch of people that have the same look as you do. And you probably hang out with people that look like you. And so that friend group and that ethnic group that you hang out with, who's probably most likely very much like you, will be your most likely vectors. Stranger violence is still a higher overall percentage than domestic violence when we get to the level of stuff that gets reported to the cops. And that's the serious violent victimization and violence. And people of color and lower socioeconomic status are more likely to be victims of violence, as are younger people. So probably the most dangerous time, if you are a woman, a person of color, single, under 25, you live in an urban environment, and you're poor, you're in a very likely spot that violence is a regular part of your world. Now you go, well, wait a minute. So I was joking, I didn't joke with Laura about this, but so the lady that runs my company is a lady named Stephanie. And I said, wait a minute, so you're least likely to be violent if you are a white woman who is married, who lives in a rural environment and makes more than $75,000 a year. If you can be that, your chances of being a victim of violent crime are very small. But guys, doesn't this just make sense? If you're rich, do you insulate yourself from violence? Sure you do. Why? You go live in a nice neighborhood without a ton of people around, and you shop a whole paycheck instead of Winco. You ever gone to like Walmart for groceries? It's a war zone, right? The problem with Walmart is not the store, it's the parking lot, and it's Walmartians. I don't even care what the deals are at Walmart. I'm not shopping for groceries there. I'm not. It's crazy, right? So again, people of color. Now, I want to actually take a break for just a minute, and then I'm actually going to show you a couple of real life instances of violence. And there are I need to show you what this looks like, because I don't want you to take your understanding from Hollywood. But I want to show you this particular video first. This one's out of Brazil. I think we hear domestic violence, or we hear intimate partner violence, and we think that it's not it's not really that bad. But what the reality is what you're going to see is this car coming up here, and watch the windshield. You're going to see him reach over and smack her. And I'm going to tell you, this is not the first time he's put his hands on his wife. Okay, so this is a man and his wife. You can see him knock the door, actually, tries to kick her out the car. And I think she actually is trying to escape out the vehicle there, and then he grabbed her by the hair and grabbed her back into the car. See him arguing some more and physical violence. So these kinds of things are never, this is not the first time this has happened. Okay, so there's been a lot of violence in this relationship. Now watch him get out of the car, come around to the other side of the car, and yank her out of the car. And she's just going to stand there. And he's going to grab her around the neck and grab her by the hair. Go to park the car. And now she's just going to go sit down in the parking garage of their high-rise. And she goes and sits down. You see her walk over there. Now he's going to walk over to where she is and pick her up and start yelling at her and shaking her. Now she's going to try to run away from him here. She's going to finally, at some point, decide she's had enough of this. As he goes back for her again, and she's going to try to stay away from him and now run and try to get in the elevator and get away from him. But of course, she's not faster than he is, especially running in heels. So now he's got her in the elevator. This is their house. This is their apartment complex, their high-rise. So now she's trying to get out. Now he's going to grab her by the hair, and she's trying to get out of the elevator where they are. Now she's trying to get away from the guy. But now they get up to the floor where they're at, and she doesn't want to go into their place. Well, he's just going to force her. Took her into their house and threw her out a 4-story window. Okay, took her into their home and beat her for about half an hour and then threw her out a 4-story window to her death.